The champagne flute felt cold against my palm as I watched my wife, Lauren, laugh at another one of Adam Voss's jokes. Her head tilted back just a little too far. Her smile lingered just a beat too long. I'd seen that laugh before, back when we were dating, back when she actually found me amusing. "You're awfully quiet tonight, Ethan," said Caitlin Morrison, Lauren's best friend and the company's HR director. She swirled her wine with the practiced motion of someone who'd perfected the art of corporate socializing. "Just enjoying the view," I replied, gesturing toward the floor-to-ceiling windows of CEO Richard Cartwright's penthouse suite. The city sprawled below us like a circuit board, all glittering lights and geometric patterns. 20 of Lauren's coworkers filled the elegant space, their conversations creating a low hum of professional networking disguised as friendship. Lauren worked as a marketing VP at Pinnacle Tech Solutions, a mid-sized software company that had grown from startup to serious player over the past decade. Tonight's dinner was supposed to celebrate the launch of their latest product, some revolutionary customer management system that would supposedly change everything. I took another sip of champagne and watched Adam lean closer to my wife. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, where I was average height, smooth, where I was rough around the edges, corporate, where I was blue-collar turned entrepreneur. His perfectly styled hair and expensive suits screamed ambition, while my off-the-rack blazer and construction-calloused hands marked me as the outsider I'd always been in Lauren's professional circle. "So, Ethan," Adam's voice cut through my observations, "remind me what you do again? Something with buildings?" The conversation around our little cluster quieted. I could feel Lauren tense beside me, her champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. "I'm in construction and real estate investment," I said evenly. Adam's smile had the sharp edges of broken glass. Right, right. Blue-collar work. Very honest." He paused, letting the word hang in the air like smoke. "Must be interesting being married to someone so ambitious. Lauren's got real potential here. We're looking at some major promotions coming up." "Adam," Lauren's voice carried a warning note. But he wasn't done. The champagne had loosened his tongue, and I could see the malice dancing in his eyes. "I mean, it's got to be tough sometimes. Lauren's so driven, so focused on climbing the ladder. Makes you wonder if she ever thinks about what she settled for." The group had gone completely silent now. Even the background chatter seemed muted. Settled for? I kept my voice calm, curious. Adam's grin widened. "Come on, man. We all know the story. Lauren was with that investment banker before you. What was his name, Lauren? Derek? The guy who dumped her right before their engagement party." He chuckled, a sound like ice cracking. "Lucky for you, though. Sometimes the rebound becomes permanent, right? How's it feel being the backup plan?" The laughter that erupted from the group hit me like a physical blow. Not everyone laughed. Some looked uncomfortable, embarrassed, but enough did. And worst of all, Lauren laughed too. Not a polite chuckle or a nervous giggle, but a genuine laugh, as if Adam had just told the funniest joke she'd heard all week. That's when something cold and sharp crystallized in my chest. That's when I realized this wasn't just Adam being an asshole. This was Lauren's world, and in her world, I was the punchline. I set down my champagne glass with deliberate care and looked around the circle of faces. Some were still smirking. Others had begun to look uncomfortable as my silence stretched on. "You know, Adam," I said finally, "that's a really interesting question. How does it feel being someone's backup plan?" I turned to Richard Cartwright, who'd been standing quietly at the edge of our group. "Rick, you want to feel that one?" Cartwright's face went pale. "Ethan, I don't think—" "No, no," I continued, my voice carrying just enough to draw attention from nearby conversations. "Adam asked how it feels being the backup plan. I thought maybe you could explain it to him, since you've been living it for the past 3 years." The color drained from Adam's face. "Well, what are you talking about?" I smiled for the first time all evening. "I'm talking about the fact that I own 92% of Pinnacle Tech Solutions. I'm talking about the fact that Richard here has been my employee since I bought out the original investors. I'm talking about the fact that every paycheck you've ever received, every promotion you've ever gotten, every stock option you've been granted, all of it came from me." The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop in the next room. "That's Adam's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. True, Cartwright confirmed quietly. Ethan Graves is the majority shareholder and chairman of our board. I watched the blood drain from Lauren's face as the implications hit her. Around us, conversations had stopped entirely. 20 pairs of eyes stared at us like we were actors in a play they hadn't expected to see. So, to answer your question, Adam, I continued, I wouldn't know how it feels being the backup plan, but I do know how it feels to hold someone else's future in your hands. I paused, letting that sink in. Speaking of which, as chairman of the board, I'm exercising my authority to terminate your employment, effective immediately. Poor performance and unprofessional conduct. Adam's face went from pale to red to purple. You can't just... I can, and I did. Security will escort you out. I turned to Lauren, whose champagne glass was now shaking in her hand. And that promotion you were expecting? Consider it postponed, indefinitely pending a review of your judgment and professionalism. Ethan, please. Lauren's voice was barely a whisper. Can we just... But I was already walking away, heading for the elevator. Behind me, I could hear the explosion of whispers and shocked murmurs as 20 corporate professionals tried to process what they'd just witnessed. The elevator doors closed on Lauren's stricken face and Adam's furious protests. As we descended toward the parking garage, I caught my reflection in the polished steel doors. For the first time in months, I was smiling. The backup plan was about to become the main event. My man cave had always been my sanctuary, a finished basement with exposed brick walls, a well-stocked bar, and a massive TV for watching games. Tonight, it felt like a war room. So let me get this straight, said Sam Rodriguez, my construction foreman and closest friend for the past 15 years. He sat in my leather recliner, nursing a beer and shaking his head. You've been married to this woman for 8 years, and she never knew you owned her company? She never asked, I replied, pouring myself 3 fingers of bourbon. Lauren always kept her work life separate. Said she didn't want people thinking she got ahead because of her husband's connections. Turns out, she didn't want you knowing about her connections either, said Vivian, my younger sister. She was perched on the edge of my desk, her laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. As a corporate lawyer, Viv had a talent for finding dirt that most people preferred to keep buried. It had been 2 hours since I'd walked out of Cartwright's penthouse. Lauren still wasn't home, probably at some bar with her coworkers, trying to explain away the evening's humiliation. Or maybe she was somewhere else entirely, with someone else entirely. Find anything interesting? I asked Viv. Oh, you have no idea. She turned the laptop toward me. Your wife's been very busy. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, shopping trips. All on days when she told you she was working late or traveling for business. Sam leaned forward to look at the screen. That's the Marriott downtown. Nice place. Expensive. Very expensive, Viv agreed. Especially when you're booking rooms for 2 people. She clicked to another tab. And look at this. Text messages I recovered from her cloud backup. Apparently, she never learned about digital security. I moved behind her chair to read over her shoulder. The messages made my stomach turn. Adam. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Same room, Lauren. Already booked it. Tell your wife you're working late again. Adam. She's used to it by now. What about Ethan? Lauren. He's got some project meeting. Won't be home until after midnight. The timestamps showed the conversation had taken place 3 days ago. I remembered that night. I'd come home from a construction site inspection to find Lauren already asleep, or pretending to be. There's more, Viv said quietly. A lot more. She scrolled through weeks of messages, each one a small knife twist in my chest. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future together. Adam was being considered for a promotion to senior vice president, and Lauren was angling for the marketing director position. They talked about getting rid of Cartwright, taking control of the company, and building something together. Something that didn't include me. Jesus, Sam muttered. How long has this been going on? Based on these messages, at least 6 months, Viv replied. But I'm guessing it started before that. These read like people who are comfortable with each other, who've moved past the early stages. I walked to the bar and refilled my glass. The bourbon burned, but not as much as the betrayal. What else did you find? Credit card statements for starters. She's been spending money like water. Expensive clothes, jewelry, spa treatments, all charged to your joint account. Viv pulled up another screen. And then there are the emails to her friends. Want to hear what she really thinks about you? Hit me. Viv cleared her throat and read from the screen. This is from an email to Caitlin Morrison, dated 2 weeks ago. I know I should feel guilty, but I don't. Adam makes me feel alive again. He's ambitious, he's going places, and he doesn't spend his evenings watching ESPN and talking about construction projects. I married Ethan because he was safe, because he was there when Derek broke my heart. But safe isn't enough anymore. I want more than safe. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Sam finished his beer and set the empty bottle on the coffee table with a sharp click. So, what's the plan? He asked. Plan? Come on, Ethan. I've known you since we were framing houses together 15 years ago. You don't just let things slide. Remember when that developer tried to stiff us on the Riverside project? You made his life hell for 6 months until he paid every penny he owed us, plus interest. I stared into my bourbon, watching the amber liquid catch the light. This is different. This is my marriage. No, Viv said firmly. Your marriage ended the moment she decided to betray you. Now it's just a matter of how you want to handle the divorce. Who said anything about divorce? My sister and my best friend exchanged a look that said they knew me better than I knew myself. Ethan, Viv said gently, you can't seriously be thinking about trying to work this out. Not after what we just read. I walked to the small window that looked out onto our backyard. Lauren had spent thousands of dollars landscaping it, turning it into something that belonged in a magazine. Perfect flowers in perfect rows, not a weed in sight. It was beautiful and sterile and completely artificial. I'm not thinking about working anything out, I said finally. I'm thinking about making sure she understands exactly what she's throwing away. Sam grinned. Now that sounds like the Ethan Graves I know. What did you have in mind? Viv asked. I turned back to face them, and I could see from their expressions that whatever they saw in my face satisfied them. Adam Voss wanted to know how it feels being someone's backup plan, I said. I think it's time he found out. The next morning, I was waiting in the parking garage of Pinnacle Tech Solutions when Adam arrived for work. He pulled his silver BMW into his reserved spot, the one marked Senior Marketing Manager, and sat there for a moment, probably steeling himself for what promised to be an uncomfortable day. I'd been there since 7 a.m., parked in the shadows near the elevator bank, watching employees trickle in for another day at the office. Most of them had been at the dinner party last night. Most of them had witnessed Adam's humiliation and my revelation. The gossip mill would be working overtime today. Adam finally got out of his car, straightened his tie, and started walking toward the elevator. He was trying to project confidence, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept glancing around as if expecting an ambush. He wasn't wrong. Morning, Adam. He spun around, his hand instinctively going to his chest. Jesus Christ, Ethan, you scared the hell out of me. Sorry about that. I stepped out of the shadows, my hands in my pockets, trying to look as non-threatening as possible. I was hoping we could have a conversation. Look, about last night. Last night was just the beginning, I interrupted. See, I've been doing some thinking, and I realized you were right about something. Lauren did settle, but not in the way you think. Adam's eyes darted toward the elevator, calculating distances. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. She settled for sneaking around with a middle management wannabe when she could have had something real. Something honest. I took a step closer, and Adam backed up until he was pressed against his BMW. But then again, you're not really interested in honest, are you? You're interested in what you can take. You're crazy, Adam said, but his voice cracked slightly. I don't know what Lauren told you. Lauren didn't tell me anything. She didn't have to. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It displayed one of his text messages to my wife, the one where he talked about getting rid of Cartwright and taking over the company. Amazing what people leave lying around in the cloud these days. The color drained from his face. That's private. So was my marriage. But that didn't stop you from sticking your nose into it. I put the phone away and smiled. Here's what's going to happen, Adam. You're going to clean out your office, you're going to leave quietly, and you're going to stay away from my wife. You already fired me, he said, trying to regain some composure. What more do you want? I want you to understand that last night was me being polite. This is me being serious. I leaned in closer, close enough to smell his expensive cologne and the fear sweat underneath it. You see, I know things about you, Adam. I know about the harassment complaints that Caitlin buried in your file. I know about the expense reports you've been padding. I know about the client information you've been stealing to take to potential competitors. His mouth opened and closed without sound. Oh, yes, I continued. I had Viv do a thorough background check. Corporate lawyers are very good at finding things people want to keep hidden. So here's the deal. You disappear quietly, or I make sure every company in this city knows exactly what kind of employee you really are. Adam's face went through several color changes before settling on a sickly green. You can't prove any of that, can I? I stepped back and pulled out my phone again. This time I showed him a photo of documents spread across a desk. Caitlin was very helpful. Turns out she's been documenting your behavior for months, just waiting for someone to give her permission to act on it. Caitlin wouldn't. Caitlin would do whatever benefits Caitlin. And right now, throwing you under the bus benefits her career prospects. I put the phone away and straightened his tie for him, a gesture that made him flinch. You really should have been more careful about who you made enemies with, Adam. He pushed my hand away, finally finding some backbone. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I started walking toward my truck, then paused and looked back. Oh, and Adam? If I were you, I'd start looking for work in another city. I have a lot of friends in construction and real estate. Word travels fast in those circles. I left him standing there in the parking garage, probably trying to figure out how his perfect plan had gone so wrong so quickly. As I drove away, I could see him in my rearview mirror, still standing next to his BMW, looking lost and small and very much alone. The first domino had fallen. Time to line up the rest. Lauren was waiting for me when I got home that evening. She sat at our kitchen island, still wearing her work clothes, a glass of wine in her hands and a look of desperate determination on her face. We need to talk, she said without preamble. Do we? I opened the refrigerator and grabbed a beer, taking my time with the bottle opener. I thought you covered everything pretty thoroughly in your emails to Caitlin. Her face went pale. Ethan, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you've been screwing Adam Voss for the past 6 months? Can you explain why you've been planning to push out Cartwright and take over the company? Can you explain why you told your friends that marrying me was settling for safe? Each question hit her like a physical blow. She set down her wine glass with shaking hands. How did you... My emails are private. Nothing's private when you use the same password for everything, Lauren. Derek 2015. Really? Your ex-boyfriend's name and the year he dumped you? Even after 8 years of marriage, you're still carrying a torch for the guy who broke your heart. She stood up abruptly, knocking over the wine glass. Red liquid spread across the white marble countertop like blood. That's not... You don't understand. Then explain it to me. I leaned against the refrigerator, beer in hand, and waited. Explain how I'm supposed to understand that my wife has been lying to me for months. Explain how I'm supposed to understand that she's been planning a future that doesn't include me. Lauren grabbed a paper towel and started cleaning up the spilled wine, her movements quick and agitated. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Adam and I, it was just work at first. Late nights, shared projects, you know? And then it became something more. Something more than your marriage? Something different. The words exploded out of her. Something exciting and new and alive. When was the last time you and I talked about anything besides your construction projects or my work schedule? When was the last time we went somewhere together that wasn't an obligation? When was the last time you suggested we do something together? I shot back. When was the last time you acted like you wanted to spend time with your husband instead of treating me like a roommate who splits the bills? She threw the wine-stained paper towel into the sink. That's not fair. Fair, I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you telling me you were unhappy instead of sneaking around behind my back. Fair would have been you asking for a divorce instead of planning to steal my company. It's not your company. It is my company. The words came out louder than I'd intended, echoing off the kitchen walls. I own 92% of it. I've owned it for 3 years. The only reason I never told you was because you said you wanted to succeed on your own merits. Lauren stared at me, her mouth slightly open. 3 years? You've owned Pinnacle for 3 years and never told me? Why would I? You made it clear that your work life was separate from our marriage. You never wanted to talk about what I did with my investments. You never asked where the money came from that paid for this house, for your car, for those spa weekends you love so much. She sank back onto the bar stool, looking suddenly small and fragile. I thought I thought you were just doing well with your construction business. I am doing well, better than well. But apparently that's not enough for you. Apparently I'm just the safe choice, the backup plan, the guy you settled for when Prince Charming didn't work out. Ethan, please. Please what? Please pretend I didn't read those emails? Please pretend I don't know about the hotel rooms and the secret dinners and the plans to push me aside once you and Adam took over the company? I finished my beer and set the empty bottle on the counter. Please pretend that my wife didn't laugh when her lover called me the backup plan? Tears started rolling down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her, no desire to make things better. The woman I'd loved for 8 years had been replaced by a stranger who looked like her, but acted like someone I'd never met. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you pack a bag and go stay with Caitlin or your sister or wherever it is you want to go. We'll figure out the rest later. This is my house too. No, it's not. It's my house. I bought it, I pay the mortgage, and my name is the only one on the deed. I walked toward the kitchen door, then paused. Oh, and Lauren? I've already called the bank and the credit card companies. Your access to our joint accounts has been suspended pending a review of recent charges. If you need money, I suggest you ask Adam. You can't just cut me off. I can, and I did. You want independence? You want excitement? You want something different from safe, boring old me? Congratulations, you got it. I left her sitting in the kitchen, surrounded by the wreckage of our marriage and the spreading stain of spilled wine. As I headed upstairs to the bedroom we'd shared for 8 years, I could hear her crying. It should have made me feel something. Guilt, maybe, or regret, or even satisfaction. Instead, I felt nothing at all. 2 weeks later, I was having lunch with Sam at Murphy's, a blue-collar bar near my construction office that served the best burgers in the city. The place was exactly what it looked like. Scarred wooden tables, neon beer signs, and a bartender named Barb, who'd been there since the Reagan administration and knew everyone's business before they did. So, how's the divorce going? Sam asked around a mouthful of cheeseburger. Slowly. Lauren hired some hotshot attorney who thinks he can intimidate me into a bigger settlement. I took a swig of beer and grinned. He's about to learn why you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Viv handling it? Viv's handling it. Turns out, Lauren's been very careless with community property laws. All those hotel rooms and expensive dinners she charged to our joint account, that's going to be deducted from her settlement, with interest. Barb wandered over to refill our beers. She was a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair, and the kind of no-nonsense attitude that came from decades of dealing with drunk construction workers and cheating husbands. You boys talking about Ethan's wife? She asked without preamble. Ex-wife, I corrected. Not yet, she ain't. But I got something you might find interesting. Barb pulled out her phone and scrolled through the photos. Remember that security camera system we had installed last month? The one that covers the parking lot? I nodded. Murphy's had been having problems with vandalism, so Barb had invested in a high-end surveillance system. Well, turns out it also covers the hotel across the street, and it's got a real nice zoom function. She showed me the phone screen. The photo was crystal clear, despite being taken from across the street. It showed Lauren and Adam standing outside the Marriott, locked in an embrace that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. The timestamp showed it had been taken 3 weeks ago, 2 days before the dinner party that had blown up my marriage. You want me to email this to you? Barb asked. Actually, I want you to email it to someone else. I gave her Caitlin Morrison's email address. Make sure the subject line says, "Thought you should see this." Sam raised an eyebrow. What's the play there? Caitlin's been Lauren's best friend for 10 years. She's also the HR director at Pinnacle, which means she's been covering for Lauren's affair and Adam's harassment complaints. But Caitlin's also ambitious, and she's been angling for Lauren's job since Lauren got promoted over her 3 years ago. So you're betting she'll throw Lauren under the bus to save her own career? I'm betting she already has. Why do you think I got all that information about Adam so easily? Barb cackled with delight. You're a devious son of a bitch, Ethan Graves. I like that in a man. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at the screen and smiled. Speak of the devil. That's Caitlin now. She wants to meet for coffee tomorrow. Says she has information I might find interesting. What kind of information? Sam asked. The kind that's going to make Lauren's divorce settlement look like pocket change compared to what she's about to lose. We finished our burgers in comfortable silence, watching the lunch crowd of construction workers and office employees who discovered Murphy's served better food than the trendy places downtown. These were my people. Honest, hardworking, straightforward. They said what they meant and meant what they said. Lauren had never understood that about me. She'd always been embarrassed by my blue-collar roots, by the fact that I preferred a beer and a burger to wine and sushi. She'd wanted me to be something I wasn't, and when I couldn't change enough to suit her, she'd found someone who could give her what she thought she wanted. Now she was about to learn that getting what you want and getting what you deserve are two very different things. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Sam as we got ready to leave. What's that? Adam was right about one thing. Lauren did settle when she married me. She could have had a man who would have loved her unconditionally, who would have built a life with her, who would have given her everything she ever wanted. I threw a 20 on the table and stood up. Instead, she settled for playing games with a middle management loser who can't even cheat on his wife without getting caught. Sam grinned. And now they're both about to find out what settling really looks like. Now they're both about to find out what losing looks like. The coffee shop Caitlin had chosen was one of those trendy places in the financial district where a simple latte cost $8 and came with foam art. It was exactly the kind of place Lauren would have suggested, which told me everything I needed to know about Caitlin's motivations. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with her laptop open and a stack of papers beside her coffee cup. Caitlin Morrison was an attractive woman in her early 40s with the kind of polished professionalism that came from years of climbing the corporate ladder. She'd always been friendly to me at company events, but I'd sensed the calculation behind her smiles. Ethan, she said, standing to shake my hand, thank you for meeting with me. Thank you for the interesting email, I replied, taking the seat across from her. That was quite a photo. Her smile was razor sharp. I thought you'd appreciate it. I have to say, I was shocked when I received it. I had no idea Lauren and Adam were involved. Of course you didn't. If she caught the sarcasm in my voice, she didn't show it. Instead, she opened her laptop and turned the screen toward me. I've been doing some investigating since our conversation, and I've discovered some very disturbing information about both Lauren and Adam's conduct at the company. The screen showed a detailed spreadsheet with dates, times, and dollar amounts. It was a comprehensive record of policy violations, expense account abuse, and what appeared to be outright theft. This is impressive work, I said, scrolling through the data. How long did it take you to put this together? I've been documenting irregularities for months, Caitlin said smoothly. As HR director, it's my responsibility to monitor employee conduct. And yet you never reported any of this to Cartwright. Her smile faltered slightly. I was gathering evidence. These are serious accusations, and I wanted to make sure I had everything documented properly before bringing it to management's attention. Of course. I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. So, what is it you want, Caitlin? I want to do the right thing. Lauren has been my friend for years, but I can't overlook this kind of behavior. The company's reputation is at stake. And your promotion prospects have nothing to do with it? This time her smile disappeared entirely. I don't know what you mean. I mean that with Lauren out of the picture and Adam already gone. You're next in line for the marketing director position. I mean that you've been waiting for an opportunity like this for years, and now you finally have it. Caitlin's mask of professional concern slipped. revealing the ambitious predator underneath. Lauren made her choices, Ethan. I'm not responsible for the consequences. No, but you're certainly ready to benefit from them. Are you going to take this information or not? I picked up the stack of papers and flipped through them. Bank records, hotel receipts, expense reports, email printouts. It was a prosecutor's dream and Lauren's nightmare. This is very thorough, I said. Almost too thorough. Like you've been planning this for a while. I've been doing my job. Your job? Or positioning yourself for Lauren's job? Caitlin leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Does it matter? Lauren betrayed you. She betrayed the company. And she betrayed our friendship. She deserves whatever happens to her. And you deserve her promotion. I've earned it. I gathered up the papers and stood. You know what, Caitlin? You're absolutely right. You have earned it. You've earned it by being exactly the kind of person who would smile at her best friend's face while sharpening the knife for her back. Ethan, don't worry. I'll make sure Cartwright sees all of this. I'll make sure Lauren faces the full consequences of her actions. And I'll make sure you get exactly what you deserve. I left her sitting there, probably wondering whether that last comment was a promise or a threat. The truth was, it was both. Outside the coffee shop, I pulled out my phone and called Viv. How did it go? She asked. Better than expected. We now have enough evidence to destroy Lauren's career and probably send her to prison if we wanted to push it that far. Do we want to push it that far? I thought about it as I walked toward my truck. Lauren had betrayed our marriage, stolen from our joint accounts, and conspired to take over my company. She'd laughed when her lover called me the backup plan, and she'd planned a future that didn't include me. But prison seemed like overkill. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I was looking for justice. No, I said finally. Prison's too easy. I want her to live with the consequences of her choices. What about Caitlin? Caitlin's about to learn that there's a difference between earning something and deserving it. I love it when you get devious. What's the plan? I climbed into my truck and started the engine. In the distance, I could see the Pinnacle building, where Lauren was probably sitting in her office, unaware that her world was about to collapse around her. The plan is to give everyone exactly what they deserve, I said, starting with a board meeting that's going to change everything.